welcome back to the channel. We're playing 20 questions with
Marina Hedeman of Studio.Aquamarina. For those who don't know me, hi. I make ceramic stuff and paint. That's my thing. And I'm also a huge nerd of stationery.
Yep. You and I have a lot of conversations about rare watercolor pigments and fountain pens.
Yeah, that's about, I kind of feel like the watercolor community and fountain pen community should be a little bit more connected. And I feel like weirdly, it's just like you and I and maybe a few more people. But we found each other.
We found each other. Let's get into the questions. When I say fountain pen, what pen do you think of?
Ooh, I have a prop.
You have a prop.
So this is old. 1930s, late 1930s, called Minerva. So Omas used to produce the sub brand of theirs. And so this is one of them, and I love it. And it has a little lever fill too.
Super cute. How did you get into pens?
It was not quite like a huge discovery for me. I've had them around me for a while just because kind of both of my parents used them on and off in schools themselves. And then my dad had a job where he had to like draft, and for some reason he was just like using fountain pens for it. He preferred it that way. And then my mom very briefly was very unhappy with my handwriting. So she got me one of those, I think, German fountain pens, but the only thing I remember about it, it was green. Didn't help me, but long story short, I've been around them for a while, and I sort of picked it up again once I got married 5 years ago, because we live in the same place now. I stopped traveling as much, so I can finally build my collection.
All right. What was the first pen you bought once you got back into it?
Oh my God. I think it was one of those fines, just estate fines. Because for those who don't know me, I kind of sort of do a lot of vintage antiquing and stuff like that for my store. And just the way my business is, I do a lot of antique tins. And so I just found someone who was both into cigars. So they had those beautiful cigar boxes and tins for cigarettes. And they had like a couple of pretty pens. And one of them was 1990s Omas. And I'll talk about it later.
All right. What's your current daily driver?
My current one is Montblanc, and it's broad.
Okay.
It's like, it wasn't my favorite in the beginning, but I kind of got into it. It's stainless steel. They discontinued these, so I'm enjoying this, and it has toffee brown by Montblanc in it too.
I've got an inquiry in for that ink at my local boutique.
Ooh, it seems to be extremely popular from what I understand.
It's really hard to get. The first time I saw a box of it, you told me I should have gotten it, and I didn't get it. And I've had an inquiry in since then, and they can't seem to find me a box of it, which is upsetting. What's your favorite ink currently?
Montblanc again, which I don't think you're surprised about, right? But this one was a surprise for me, though. So this was, what's it called? Homage to Gustav Klimt. It's a pretty one, and I feel like currently, what is it currently? Jane Austen, and people are really going crazy for it. Like, you can't buy it anymore. I feel like
it was sold out within like a couple hours of coming out.
Right, but this one, I think it's partially sold out. Although you can still get it somewhere.
Yeah,
I feel like it was not such a big deal, at least in the U.S. But it's really nice. Like, it's blue that is very kind of transcendent and beautiful, and like they nailed it, in my opinion. But for me, it's also like a memory of like having New Year's in Vienna. So, you know.
You were the person that got me into Montblanc inks.
Yay!
People that don't know, you were the one that went, this is what you need for your vintage stuff.
Yeah.
Pen friends are dangerous. What's your favorite brand?
For pens or for ink
For
pens?
pens, for ink, for whatever you pens, ink.
So ink, I think you know.
Yeah,
I just had a good luck with Montblanc, so
yeah.
there you go. Pens is oh yeah, I would say it's going to be controversial for some. It's Italian Stipula pens.
Okay.
So I do love their Etruria series. Most of the ones I've tried. I have a couple. I have a couple older ones. I think it was the same estate sale what I got, the Omas. I got my first Etruria, and then it just like I was lucky. It was great. So I love them all, and but I be honest, I am avoiding some of the models that I've heard that they're like, mm, you know, but the ones I've had have all been wonderful.
I, I know the answer to this, but vintage or modern?
Do you though?
I think I do. Unless you're going to
um,
absolutely shock me, I think I know the answer to this.
I would say realistically, vintage are wonderful, but only a couple of them. Like that Italian one that I showed,
Yeah,
Minerva, is it's incredible. But I feel like modern pens are just much more suited to modern life. And I've had a little bit less problems with them traveling. So I would
yeah.
say still modern.
All right. Do you swatch all your inks?
I do. Can I show?
Yeah, you can show whatever you want.
So I swatch them weirdly. I feel like people don't do it probably in the fountain pen community, but I have a watercolor sketchbook that was made for me in a collaboration with my friend Christina. No, not Christina, Stefania. I'm sorry, from Shadow Light Mining. And so what I do, it's literally hot press paper. And so what I do, I just swatch it like that. And I also test it for sketching because by writing, because it's important to me to be able to also sketch from time to time with my pen. By writing on a watercolor paper, this kind of solves a lot of problems for me.
Do you have any pens that you daily drive the same ink and pen combination, or do you always switch it up?
Um, Mostly, I don't have a lot of misses. It's like it's been very great for most of my pens. Like it's like straight up good combo. But sometimes I do switch them up. And then I do have like that pouch of like 6 pens or something that I'm just like, there's this one, like, the solitaire that I showed that I'm currently using. And then like 5 other ones that I'm like, oh, if the ink is running out or whatever, I'm just gonna, just those. So the one I'm daily driving is usually the same ink and the same pen, and I'm just enjoying it. But the rest is kind of like, oh, I'm trying this one out. Let's see.
Do you have your writing samples for nibs and pens in a way that you can flip through them so you know what a pen writes like, or do you just like know what a nib in every pen writes like?
Mm, I would say not like dedicated one. So like the book that I showed you, I would say I usually mention what nib is
Okay.
already in the pen. So not really, not a dedicated one at least.
All right. What's a pen you wish you could see in person?
I will go with Namiki Emperor just because I'm curious. I'm not sure it's for me, just like you and your Homo sapiens experience. And I would love to see the fancy Montblanc big pens, like
Yeah.
the artist pens or whatever. Yeah.
What's your current grail?
I actually do have a vintagey one and a modern one. So the vintagey one would be 1996, which the 90s are the vintage pens these days.
Yeah.
Pompeii by
Okay.
Delta, which is super pretty, like this red pen. And the second one would be handmade from a guy right here in California, um, Atelier Rousseau. He makes
Okay.
really pretty pens, and I'm just like confused. I need to know like the size of them because they seem to be like grand pens from what I understand. I just want to see them in person.
Right. What pen would you recommend to a beginner?
Mm, I would say invest straight away in that one pen that you could potentially drive for a while, until you understand if you want to like buy more expensive. So I would say, for me personally, I would recommend the Twisby Diamond Mini AL.
Okay.
So the aluminum, I think that's what it stands for. I've had the best luck with those, and there was a small enough but big enough. So like if my dad wants to take it in and try it from me, it works great for him. For me, it's like small enough, but the ink capacity is great enough to just sketch out with it, you know. And I think that's something rather than just buying like a $10 pen. This is, what is it, $50, $60 these days?
Yeah, I think
Um,
they're like 65, 70, depending on the model.
and I think one of them I bought on the discount, like Yoseka has like a 10 off. If you just like, you're the first time buyer or something, you can get it discounted too. And you just can just get one and just drive it for a while to see if you want to continue.
Yep. What ink would you recommend to a beginner?
Sketching and writing, good old the Atramentis, I think that's the name of the brand out of Germany, and just their archival black. If it's just for writing, plain old Waterman. My favorite is the purple, the tender purple. It's cheap, it's nice, it's fine for like vintagey pens.
Yep. What advice do you have for somebody wanting to try out fountain pens who might be intimidated by them?
Do it for yourself. I feel like that's the first and foremost, and I feel like with just like seeing things online, people tend to be like, oh, maybe I should show it, but you don't have to. And I feel like a lot of people start it for themselves and continue it for themselves. Like it was the same with watercolors for me. I continued for my personal mental health, and I realized so many people are benefiting from them, the watercolors and just stationery in pens in general. And just do it for yourself. You will see the growth and change. And if you want to continue, you will. If not, you tried it.
Yep. What filling mechanism do you think is most interesting, regardless of if you like to use it or not?
Interesting and frustrating, but I think very classic is the lever fill. Do not like using it,
Yeah.
despite it being in some of the best pens I have, but it's classic. Like that's literally what you think of in like cartoony way of a
Yeah.
fountain pen.
It's always a gamble though when you ink one up and you go, oh, please let there not have a hole in the sack since the last time I inked you up. Uh, yeah.
I need to service a couple of pens. That reminds me of that.
Mm. What nib size do you prefer to write with?
Uh, let's say again, sketching. I would go with fine just because, but writing. I would say medium, but
Okay.
also keeping in mind that medium is different for different pens. Like Sailor, broad,
Yeah.
but rest medium.
All right. Is there a style of nib you love or find interesting but would never actually use?
Yeah, my favorite pen. One of my first ones. It has a modified. So the guy who had it, the collector who had it before me, had had it modified into Spencerian,
Okay.
and so it's a flex. It was like flex that is also a needle point, and it is hard to navigate. You gotta get used to it. It's just I lag behind. Like whenever I write with it, it's just like I'm not fast, but it's a great pen. It's just the nib.
It sounds super cool. Yeah. Do you always use the same paper? If so, what paper? If not, what paper's your favorite?
Yeah, I think it's these days it's mostly whatever Moleskine has in it. So my
Mhm.
planner,
Yeah.
and then there are a couple of very good Japanese papers. Attica or something like that. It's like those pretty journals like that everyone like almost every store has. It's surprisingly good paper. It doesn't bleed for me for like most inks. So yeah, that's my usual.
All right. What's your least favorite ink/ink color family?
Well, this one might surprise some people. Pinks.
Pink. Huh.
They are hard. Um, Especially when you work with color and pigments the way I do, and I have a very specific pink I want to see,
Yeah.
and it's
Honestly,
hard.
I might agree with that. Pink hasn't come up in this series. I think I said orange, but I can't honestly think of a pink ink I have that I love.
So many disappointments.
Yeah.
I famously the pretty but disappointing, and I don't know what to do with it. Lady Rose. Oh, she's so pretty,
It's on my
but
wish
she just
list.
doesn't work.
It's on my wish
I'll
list.
Yeah, I can send you a sample if you want to, but
All right.
not for writing, and
Mm,
sadly for me, not even in the broad, but probably for sketching.
mm.
So it's just a hard one. You know, you get excited about a pink, and then you get it, and you're like, oh no.
All right. Well, that's all 20 questions.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for doing it.